So I will then stop this. And
I can't believe I was kind of addicted on the params process. Like, okay, sorry.
Yeah, I really wish it would be a bit longer. Like, you know, like the parameters were evolving, and yeah, it's sad. Like it's so short.
No kidding. I feel like we could do this. The next round is where it really matters, right? Like seriously, the variability, the impact on picking one set of params versus the other for this, it matters. But like, you know, these little details, it's okay. We just have to call it, I feel like, you know. But for the next one, we're definitely doing 2 rounds. We're gonna do like proposals, debates, another round of proposals where we focus on proposals. We do last sets of debates and like extend it.
Yeah, I just started figuring out like how to think about it, and like what the parameters are closing. Oh no, I'm too slow.
okay, so thanks everyone for joining this Gravity Working Group session. Today, I bring this topic into the table. That is something that Livy shared with me yesterday, and it's about this video. You can see it, and it says that sometimes we do not allow ourselves to be vulnerable, and we also sometimes always answer to yes to things, and sometimes we stop, we forget that it's better to place discomfort over resentment, and it's better to say no if you don't want to say something than to say yes and to like do something without a good energy. And I think that if we are making this community around trust, around confidence, it's also good to lose that taboo of invulnerability that that maybe we have created one to another. And I think like that coming from this quote, vulnerability is the cornerstone of confidence. Yeah, I think that our best friends are the people who knows us really well, and the people that knows also maybe our weak spots, but are passionate enough so that they don't use that knowledge or that vulnerability that they know we have against us. So yeah, and also when we place ourselves in this spot of vulnerability, we also understand that neither of us is like exempt to things happening, and yeah, as we have talked several times, we are all humans, and here is good to be able to show ourselves that way, and to stop like using masks of like, yeah, I am vulnerable, or I am invincible, or yeah, and yeah, I think it's good to show ourselves the way we are in the most honest way possible, even though that we are having this screen that shows only what we want to show. But we can also show ourselves the most transparent way possible. So my intro question for today is, are you afraid of being vulnerable? And I would take my initial response, and I feel that I sometimes want to show to the other people like a lot of strength, and I also like when people like, and I also like to show people that they count on me and that they can rely on me, and that if they need support they can count on me. But that sometimes it's something that I exteriorize, even though that in the interior sometimes I am even like doubtful of how can I help, of if I would be able to help. But yeah, I think that sometimes I'm a little bit afraid of being vulnerable, and is that I always like for people to see myself like with good energy, and when I am with down energy, I like to take some time off, or I don't like people to seeing that. So yeah, I think sometimes I'm a little bit afraid of showing my vulnerabilities. But also just the fact of being able to talk about it, like takes that taboo out of the equation, and yeah, makes you like understand more about the human that I am. That yeah, I always try to show myself like strong and able to help, but sometimes I don't know how am I going to help, or I doubt about myself. But what I always try to do when I doubt about myself is to prove me wrong, and to say like, yeah, you shouldn't like think less of yourself, and like you are capable. So yeah, I think it's good to take that veil off, and and I share to you that is one thing that you can like know more deeply about me, that sometimes, and I have said this in other calls, that I think that I have like this exoskeleton that is like really tough against like things coming from the outside, but I also have like this inner part of myself, of my soul, who is like really soft, and who that sometimes I want to take care of. So yeah, I am just showing like a little bit of myself so that you can know me, and I have the confidence in you to like share with you these things that are my, yeah, my own way of seeing things, and that it's not bad that sometimes yeah, we can say like, I don't know, or like yeah, we're not perfect, and we don't know everything, so it's really good to be able to show ourselves like uh, I am not like trying to say that we all should have like perfect lives or anything. It's just like all our lives are filled with so many variables, and our inner self always is questioning so much stuff, and we all are in one way or another, or more or less a little bit more vulnerable to things. So yeah, I wanted to share that with you. I want to pass to Livy.
Thanks, Juan. Mm. There's two things that she said in that video. This woman that I sent to Juan, she researches shame and vulnerability. And there's one thing she says that like she asks the audience um, if people feel like they need to be courageous, and if it was rewarded along their life to have courage. And then everyone raises their hand. And then she asks was it rewarded to be vulnerable? Did you think you could be vulnerable? And what was this attached to? And then people said that vulnerability was often connected to weakness, and weakness and vulnerability were never rewarded or incentivized. But then courage doesn't exist without vulnerability to take risks. So there is this culture where courage is super valued and vulnerability is super judged and unvalued. And then it creates this, it's almost like stuck. It's very hard to find how to move, and there's so much shame created from this because you're like looking into something and then you don't know how to get it, or that you need to be vulnerable to get that like reward of the courage. And then another thing was that joy is one of the most vulnerable things, and because to feel joy you're completely like unprotected, and people look at you and they I mean you're totally exposed when you're completely given like in surrender to joy. And for me, I think vulnerability was very rewarded in theater in a very weird way, almost like a fetishized way of like, oh, you're pretty when you're crying in the corner, and that and then there was a lot of like very weird situations on how to access vulnerability. And I feel like this, I don't know, it helped me a lot, but also traumatized me a lot. And I think there was a lot of like issues with like the way I communicate and with self-image that I still feel like very vulnerable. Like for me is like a huge step to be like being recorded in every single call and be like not caring about like after a while I don't care anymore because like I feel intimate with everyone. It's like I'm seeing everyone all the time. And I think also the way I communicate, like if I think my shame comes mostly from this of like the way I communicate and the way I express, the way I look and I communicate certain things. Especially from like I always said, I talk so slow and I speak English because it feels like my brain is still thinking about a word before I say next. But how long will I have to speak the language till I finally get to a point that it feels fluid? And then when I speak Portuguese, I just want to speak so fast because it feels like there's something to get out, and like ideas get so connected in an easier way. So I don't know, I feel like it's hard for me sometimes to feel completely vulnerable in the moment, to feel like comfortable to be myself. But in general, I feel like I am a person that likes to take risks. And I pass to the guest.
That's a good question. I think, in order to, my definition of life is the ability to adjust and accommodate, and everything in life requires this. And so, everything, I mean, that's why everything is alive, all the stuff we call inanimate is really alive. In order to be alive, you have to adapt, and in many ways, adaptation itself is a vulnerable act. Adjusting to things requires vulnerability. Because if you sort of harden up around that stuff, then sometimes you're resisting what is. And I also just want to remark how beautifully Livy said that with regard to performing, because in many ways we're all performing roles in many ways. So I think for me, I'm almost relieved to have learned how to become vulnerable, because as a person on the spectrum, I actually once wrote a poem called Wands, Mirrors, and Glass, and I feel like I could say that that's the name of my autobiography. Is that I often wish that I had kind of one wave, and then the just a mirror would be removed from me that I inherited from my father, and the sheet of glass between myself and others would be removed. And ironically, it's actually very sign are literally separated from everyone in my daily life by a sheet of glass that I have felt the most vulnerable, and also my most profoundly authentic self at the same time. So I've recovered from my time, and I'm able to be more uncomfortable, even being judged by people or being wrong or whatever. I just feel like it's vulnerability, the ability to be vulnerable is but just that I found some way to navigate around that, and very difficulty of the vulnerability as well as the view of it is one of the best things in my life in this recent year. I'll pass to, I guess, whoever next, Chewy.
Thank you, Nicholas. It's uh, I guess it's something interesting that I reflect on this week, because like in a traditionally professional world, well, everything is like everyone is competing for everything, and this atmosphere definitely does not contribute to just being seen and involved. And as some of you lessons of the week with reading, and it's just been just like very confusing days, and I wake up and I feel okay, and I like start like working and get up of things, and then after like some hours, I feel like exhausted, and I feel confused, and I don't know like if it's normal, like if I give myself like the chance. And actually like talked about this to a few members of the TC community, and it felt so like good to just like be able to put it out there in a professional context, without feeling like bad or weak for being vulnerable, and just like trying to talk about it. So I guess this is also like a new kind of like relationship, or maybe not a new kind, but like a redefinition of how things work, and having the like, awareness we have about what we're working on and what we're building, and also like how do you give to this cultural build. Uh, I know that it's just know and be aware that we're also making a difference in this, not only in like fun tokeneering and stuff like that. We're also like the base of new ways of or collaborating properly, and this is a chance to like establish uh, like a mind towards this kind of, of culture, and what I want to build, and how do we do it. And yeah, it's something that we should definitely not leave behind. So yeah,
Hi everyone. It's really just like food and really I think I don't know. I'm really happy to be here and every question I like the human connections for everyone. And with regard to being vulnerable, I'm like not all the time for being vulnerable, but it has a lot to do with like how safe I feel in a circumstance. And like no, actually like I'm like really super I put on a super tough face. I'm always like, yeah, I'm everything. I'm so good at everything I do. And I'm like, don't worry, I don't need help. I got this. I got this all the time. There's like, in this like one circumstance, we'll help and support. Like maybe I don't need to have everything together and take care of it all the time. And then it's like, and then I just start like crying. And it's so interesting. Like, this it's when I feel support, and then like almost like this like childlike ability that will like out and yeah, and it's so interesting too because like I feel in the community here like I feel really supported a lot by people and like things like connections with individuals and super valuable to me, and it's really interesting the way in which I present myself in this community that is how I present myself in a community like in real life here in Costa Rica, like my face-to-face community, and like in sense, I can actually be a lot more myself, and I can feel a lot more soft. Whereas like my community is just like really like high about like masculine. I don't feel like I'm masculine at all. I'm like super feminine. But circumstances where you're so tough and masculine, and you always direct and logical and working. So I think it's really interesting thing, like, and I'm reflecting on my life. So anyway, thank you for listening to my share, and I will pass you to Nick.
This is interesting. What they're also talking about with in terms of vulnerability and kind of just a major part of life. I grew up in a culture where vulnerability was literally a weakness, and so the benefit of understanding that and seeing that growing up was kind of understanding that when we're used to be vulnerable, they have put a vulnerable state and react to a often act out emotionally and sometimes violently. And so, when people are vulnerable, I think it's a good reminder to understand that maybe they're not comfortable with it, and to approach it with caution and kind of have empathy for that side of things. I'm not afraid of being vulnerable. I actually welcome it. I think I learn a lot when I am vulnerable because it causes you to ask the right questions on, am I right? Am I doing this correctly? Can I admit wrong? Can I admit that I put myself in a position that I didn't want to be in? And so, it's valuable concept that people need to be aware of, and for those who aren't aware, I think it's very good to have empathy towards it. So, I pass Suga.
Yeah, wow. Thanks. It's so great to have. So there seems there's a lot of ways to be doing it. But yeah, sort of what I've been hearing in particular what Lauren was saying, and maybe his experience is also different. So I'm a single parent, and yesterday, so I have a car. I ride out on the countryside, and I take my kids around in a bike with one of those big basket things in the front. that I turned into an electric bike myself. And yesterday on the way to the grocery store, we got a flat tire. And it's like, and it's happened many times, and I fixed it, and move on. But it's not easy to do. I'm a real DIYer, but because of my childhood, I had to be, right? A real tough situation. And yesterday when I had to fix the flat tire, it's like I don't want anybody to see me do it because I don't want anybody to help me. It's like I can do it all myself. It's so hard. Like, wow. Daily life alone with your kids. But I'm not going to say that. I'm not saying I'm just going to do it. And so I get this flat and I'm fixing it, hoping that nobody sees me. I don't want to help. And when people do go by, don't help. I'm like, who's really ever going to help me? And eventually somebody offered help and I let them help. Is the point of vulnerability. That I guess when it comes, I will be vulnerable and somebody help me. And that's the learning moment. And it's great I can have learning. But there really makes me really what vulnerability I feel like vulnerability is standing out, always standing out. Always narrative, always a different one. Always and it's true. I'm the ride a bike in villages that try hard. Or just everything. You're always the vulnerable. You're standing out, you do things in a way, and with the TEC and experience can be when like here I am to have people from around the world that tell you and you're all learning and you would all give how you would and it's like incredible to also have that this intimate experience which is so vulnerable and it's like oh my so thanks for helping me roll me and guys to fix my tire. Okay, I would have two. Dan.
Thank you. Kirby, I have a mixed history because I feel like I'm naturally open. I'm in partial relationship between openness and vulnerability is, because I don't think those are direct correlate. Anyways, I have to be open, and I feel like my joy, and then like Kirby can make me. So now I'm kind of hold back into Michelle and just well, I can be left here where like I know all this shall be what it's company. I'm working on it all without being too open, maybe. Maybe there's something, but yeah, maybe I'm only like shy away from my vulnerability, or chose to focus on it in the past, and like so I don't know where I stand it, but I'm trying to have a close relationship with vulnerability, whatever that may be. So I think that's all I got for now. To
Yeah, I feel it's somewhat similar. I feel like I'm definitely not vulnerable, but some am not, and sometimes I am, and I feel like it's a common thing. I don't know if it's a mood or if it's like a subject matter that dependent. I'm not really sure. I feel like sometimes there's a funny rush going on, or there's a lot something, but I don't know. So makes me confident, and I feel like I'm not really emotions too much sometimes, and I wonder if I'm like, is am I even like really I want I'm so this tend to be vulnerable. That's my game, sometimes I just like I have no I have no clue. I'm so confused, and especially around this like vulnerability, like, like in relationship with my friends, family, in crypto work relationships, it's really confusing. So I don't know. But with that,
It's like and this is on the situation. Like for example, I don't know, you are with your little sister walking street, not maybe you are a little bit trying, I mean, if you're the old brother, you should try to be brave to so it's better. But yeah, like, and I also think like what you were saying, I actually for a kid, I didn't like it, and but not like what I was vulnerable, and I not good, I don't know, but I think like maybe not the main thing, like also like my expecting me and you were told like no, it's not better, right? I know like you start to be vulnerable with others, but this vulnerability makes you stronger. This is feeling right. But yeah, that's what I feel. I don't know who to pass me to. I'll pass back to you.
Mrs. Clinton, sometimes we're afraid to stand in that spotlight where we feel people just because of the situation that we are. Like, is horrible. I think it's also a bit mind blowing. Like when we do like need them and like not be able to express what they feel everything and only charging with sentence. I agree that is like very attached to a culture that we cannot like hide our own that we make they really or yeah or their life like the macho man and so we have like um gender um like 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 some side to things that have culture taught been taught So we have to also and, and, and think those that are like we really think with those attitudes from being for to do our things and just like shoot themselves with or shoot effects or like if we are in this like can have and then if some of any of us has they we don't in this point we know them we say like hey, we're having a bad day or something, but instead of that help them to yeah let out to the okay he said and sometimes like we make food just for like making ourselves be helped by other people and yeah the thing that we have in the unity and the balance we're fostering is that we're fostering that understanding of hands not only as labor as products but as things we were constant with themselves and institutions for his so I feel it's good to show this ability and I think being able to talk about this openly makes that when I would be scared of asking people and should be conscious that the answer going to from you different than we read if, if we like share our thought in Africa where other people is not so where people not so um, and I think it's okay because they're very afraid of faith also go but um, like sometimes the pressure is and, ourselves let go and uh, like we want all of and but really what should make like the criteria for the we is like how we or with the thing like blood we just like, be a people pleaser it's very to learn to go and because we when like resentment of some better claims and like eat and do don't say you take like all you and that you can I have three topics for today that I wanted to and one is that to take two stuff in June I am about to be with my friends so it's from 15th to the June and yeah it makes me like also to talk this and is that I, I love working in this community and like I feel that it's been like a great honor but now I need a little of time off and it for I feel um, I'll be what if I need a little bit of pause. So I'm okay, and I would really love to activate all the have so that those tools act on take for maybe a point, but more like in a passive role. Yeah, and also the idea of powering graphs. I was maybe with for those weeks, uh, maybe loads too much.
I think
Okay.
Yeah, I could have take more present. Um, I'm really busy, so take the rest. I wouldn't just do this and with brain over and so a little bit.
Yeah, I'm happy to host one. So I always see for any other gravity and the back. I'm trying to think.
Okay. Well, I am going to count on three in that, but we can keep working prepared on this for you. I think that can be really good for you to approach. Okay. And there's other. They are ready.
Yeah. Like that stuff. I listen to the recordings, so I'll just available. I will volunteer. Play up to 10 weeks, and I can just kind of facilitate or even to us and out. So figure it out. But I definitely want to know everything, and really grateful. So,
I'll be so when I can. Thanks.
Okay, yeah, it's so great to come. I will really well, but I know that Lee has a lot of work. Maybe she's very experienced. Maybe can help you to Dan and Riga in perspective, and also I can help you. But yeah, for me, sometimes I feel that I talk a lot, and I learn a lot. I rotate sometimes in position, but I think
what's
uh, dates sent to so yeah, that it's great count with you, and I am super sure that the set that you read is going great. I'm happy that you will here. So we do this. but not over you. Not already had just say to you, just the like for you to take care of everything great. And I think that that's the way things are going to go. The other, we were talking about slow sustainability. What's called? And we have wrapped that out roadmap. When it ends on July, that we said that we will the control that has there in July. But I think it would can like start and like what can we in, can we help to run like organically in a long term road. It would be good good art like some issues like thing and those planning strategies like how go to routes and yeah, that's a question that that goes and that much time to get what like to learn issues like when I thought that items would be made, but after talk with them, I feel that each graph circle distance now, so it would like put graphs and then we also with the graph we could also divide the cells and say like better meditation like having um, with sustain or what we can reward make sure the other people have relatives. So that's all they have is work, and that way we can also like um, make of how we contribute. I feel so um, like they they think they do is media scope of plan of how we have like this group where we destroy it. Do you understand that?
You know, we've talked in my
Good.
I'm talking about when I am gravity comment following Peter now, especially some people familiar. And the best way to buy this kind of is honestly public. Like it would be like some black having to create a weird culture around it, but the magic that is like helping build strong relationships. I like to say that cases of money, like the first house and or the unit, I think it's really easy and just so much that it's just like money and business model with yeah. So I like it. I really feel like all this stuff and very nice. I also like show people like this and use this little hyper like nerd stuff for the cool like world place and be able to put some vulnerability and I become play. But anyway, I would like to see that one.
Or participated in circuit engineering, and the reason why I bring aspects of the energy cons could be that we haven't available to this. Then also, yeah, we could maybe dive into something for with everything and I.
It's a great video. Money system of control by it. One day, that one like you're like.
Yeah, I screw a bit with the relative. You're pretty crowded. Might just
well, wait for I learn so much because it's like I said, I strength like my adaptation and visit in like as a the brain comes like really sound like a like dream and it would be really useful for communities. I really want to get the whole one high mentality. Just doing this during last week. But yeah, like the idea is to approach him and try to find like an community. Yeah, I really want to be like the witness to like how that it is like up to the community and look forward to learn process.
I'm thinking we should have a group where we go to the entire book with those principles and so push that off of that and maybe we do or Osram the methane validation call it gravity specific maybe kind of medium non-violent communication developmental thinking and superpower power.
Come on.
Yeah,
I think book.
I think that we learned on was a great experience. We learned a lot and had this like things that book around non-violent communication. Like open you and trade and well now I do think and we can to help and all like yeah the in course but now there are like so don't participate so we like have to foster uh, um more certain thing that to like communication.
Sorry. One of the things I potentially went out any idea about where I'm from. So just allowed the thing to happen. So we throw combined thing don't specific on it. And the beauty of this space is that in so all kind of whole space that emerges, right? And so in some of the token engineering is back that we let for ourselves, so sort of branch this gravity thing and something like I would do that.
I can talk Aaron's book club channel again. But let's see if
Thanks. Only of the one comment. The last topic is the distribution of the gravity survey, and to this name, he already had like a small like list of organisms would like this, and if they want to make magic distribution process that to help us. So yeah, if anyone want, thank you for joining, and if you are going to continue distribute the gravity survey.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
yeah, I was gonna talk to you one I saw the reverse. Is there a long goal survey instead of going to more survey? What the intention? What do we expect out of?
Okay. Oh, sorry. Do you want to speak, please?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, there there's one is you got information on the type of content, what people's pain points, like what they prefer within conflict transformation text in their community. All these questions get create we create a report out of this, or if there can be a and also combined with the weight of the database was 4 hours. Doesn't have all the different competition is also advertising for Gravity and for TEC. So we can whatever distance chance we channel against people you're promoting to and there's different kind of skill out in each type. I think that's like the general that's just it.
Okay. Yeah. So like the thing that I was curious about was like if we're gonna take this qualitative approach and using this kind of exploratory this type of research and then we're going to product that we have established hypothesis that we have maybe hypothesis that we can make for the initial survey that we're sending out, and then trying to figure out a strategy of like what types of DAOs are we do we want to have a certain category of DAOs, and most of those that we're going to talk about, they're not so having governance, but they're void of conflict. And so I think approaching the developers first, because the developers are going to be the key points of that governance system, whatever structure that they may have. They were going to be the first ones to contact, and I was thinking of Chewy using the TE Scouts, kind of as a first edition launch of like what we're going to use the TE Scouts for. Would be this survey, this kind of idea that we have this group of people with the comms department that says, hey, we're going to reach out to different communities, and we're going to have a core set of people who are like these point of contact for the TEC for all these different types of communities, and kind of build that relationship so we can continue further surveying the line to iterate upon our exploratory survey. So I guess the one thing that I would ask is, do we have like a work session that we can schedule to map out these hypotheses that we have for this qualitative research pursuit? And if not, and if we do, I would love to read them and hear your thoughts about it.
It sounds like you are already pointed in the right direction. I like a lot of what you're talking about. Do we want to just do a hack session, kind of between some of the other meetings, or do we want to use the whole? We could use the whole Gravity call potentially.
Honestly, I think we can just do like an async thing where, like, I don't know if you want to start like a document, and maybe we can just, like, as we go along, just any type of hypothesis that you have about conflict or conflict resolution within a decentralized community, that we can just say, hey, here's a hypothesis statement. And then based on the results that we get, we can find out which hypotheses work really well and which do not, and kind of highlight where we want to go, what direction we want to go with this research. Because I do think that, based on the type of DAOs that we interact with and engage, you're going to have vastly different problems, and we're going to be able to offer vastly different solutions based on what direction we go. So, if you go to like a large organization like, Urine Finance, for example, they're going to have some, different type of conflict resolution problems, at their scale than maybe like a prime DAO would, where, it's a little bit smaller in scale. So, I think that once we have a set of hypotheses, we can really say, okay, what do we want to get out of this? Like, what type of answers do we want to provide for other DAO communities? And once established that value proposition, then we can say, this is our product, and you can trust us to keep developing on this. And so as we do that, more trust is built with other communities, and they can rely upon us for conflict resolution problems, governance issues, and we become like only a resource for other communities to rely upon. And I think at the end of the day, TEC that's what it's about, is providing utility for organizations and decentralized communities to go to, and hey, this is where we want to find our solutions, and they have the research to back it up.
Hey, have you looked at the Gravity survey document like Wonka has on the screen now?
I have, yeah, and I think it's a really good mix of quantitative and qualitative questions, where you have your open-ended questions where you allow people to create their own statements. Is the survey limited in how many characters you can respond with?
No.
Okay, good. That's good. The only question I should have about this was whether it is the the first question of the handle and the name, is that necessary, or do we want to, like, what are your thoughts on that? I know it says it's optional, but I just want to explore what your thinking was.
It's just to avoid like having spam on the survey, so that we can know that, okay, and that we know like who is filling the survey, because maybe, I don't know, maybe it's someone who is not in one hive, and he's just like with someone, and he fills the survey, and he says, yeah, I'm from one hive, and they say like, no, like one hive, I don't know, like is lacking from from a from a process, or like the organization is not promoting activities or practice to help maintain that atmosphere. So yeah, it would be like not like like not good information for our process if like people just fills it out, say whatever. When you put your name, you like compromise that you what you're saying. Like you can, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that, because I think that, preventing spam is very important. But is there any other, like, does type form allow you to set permissions for, like, kind of like only those who have this particular can fill out the survey, or is it completely open?
Can I jump on one thing? Like, I feel like if, for example, if I want to apply for anyone, even I don't apply for the things, oh, I'm the boss, or, I mean, yeah, like, I feel like if someone wants to troll, they can do it. So I don't feel like this is an filter towards spam. But at the same time, like, people who send out, I don't, like, I don't feel like people will be spamming it. Like, there's no reason. Like, there's no incentivize at the same time. So I feel like it should not be a problem.
And I'll just add, like, I personally, I don't think there's any need for the name, but I also don't think it does any harm to have that as the first question. There's no obligation to put not your real name, to put a social security number or anything like that. So it's pretty low key, I feel like.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do, however, like, would anybody have an issue if we moved it as the last question rather than the first question? Because, like, it's things where, like, when I first opened it, I was kind of like, I'm hesitating now because you're asking my name, and now I'm like, are you going to ask me my social next? Or, so I kind of like.
I agree with that sentiment.
Okay, yes, that can be done. I can change. The only thing is that it will change the order of the answers that we have until now. But we have like 12 answers. I was thinking that it would be good if we can get like around 50. So the only thing would be to divide the previous answers to this one, and changing the first question to the last one.
You only want 50 responses?
No, it can be. It's like the minimum number I thought of, but it can be like a bigger number. But I feel that if it's been like hard to promote it, maybe like 50 was a good number. But I know it can be like 100.
Yeah, I would go for as large bowls as we can, to be honest with you. But that, it may take a little bit more time, but I do think that it will be part of the distribution strategy in general.
I totally think we can blow 50 out of the water. I really think, like, but and I'm not a communications expert as far as, like, the comms team is concerned. I'd be really happy to learn how I can best collaborate, facilitate any of that. And I'm definitely happy to follow, follow the lead on how that should go or whatever.
Yeah, I think that if we can, I know that Juan said you had, Dan, that you had a list of files already in mind that you were wanting to distribute to.
Well,
Yeah.
I just made a list of like every DAO that I could find, not like specifically we need to. It was like easier to just list them all than choose which ones to add to the list.
Yep. And honestly, on this first one, I don't think we need to filter what types of DAOs that we use. I think because it's exploratory in nature, that especially the open-ended questions where people are going to write their own unique answers, that the more that we get, depending where they come from, I think that as long as we can categorize those open-ended questions into like groupings at the end of it, then it will be we'll receive a lot of information. I guess be able to know exactly how they came from. So like shooting like one at a time, because you can see the responses in real time, correct? So like if we should do the survey. Yeah, go ahead.
That is question number 2. Is what decentralized community participated? Like exactly who we handed that link to, then yeah, that would probably take a little extra work.
Yeah, I mean, in the end of the day, I think like the goal would be like get a large and as much information as we can out of this. Can't even attribute it one DAO at a time, see how and what they do, and categorize them, as we go along. I think it's fine. That they just use one maybe for the community say, hey, this in our exploratory survey, this is about conflict with DAO. And I think that would be extremely useful instead of just kind of mass anybody and every, because we're going to get a lot of use type of or bad opinions with it.
And research that the most comments. Once we have enough to publish a preliminary findings, like the internet has.
Yeah, and it can be an event term and the relationship building aspect is really like promising too, because I do think like this, DAOs and saying, hey, we exist, we're doing like this, but like this is what we're providing you.
But I want to ask you next. You said it would be good to have like hypothesis for each question. Like yeah, I first write some hypothesis. Like example, one hypothesis that I like when people have conflict management process, that's the sense of. So that's number 11. Like we encourage organizations to have conflict management processes. We show them like hating people, like show, like says that they feel they're so being against having one, so one have your unity and like and like and it conflict management process.
Yeah, so your hypothesis to that would be people have access to conflict management process. They're happy or they're comfortable or they're considered be the first idea. And so if we just have a bunch of statements like that you as I, and then when we're seeing obviously we match those hypotheses and we find a process that has like a lot of action, we can go, okay, let's really explore the beef and try to and further surveys.
Okay, I think that's a really great deliverable. I think I can like start working at hypothesis question, then we have like a hacking session for yeah to